The dark truth behind A Clockwork Orange. The milk bar scene wasn't just weird. It was illegal, actors were injured, cast members were arrested. The lead almost went blind, and Stanley Kubrick? He buried his own movie for nearly 3 decades. Let's peel back the curtain on the film that went too far. A Clockwork Orange. These are 20 facts Kubrick never wanted you to know. Fact 1. The Drogs language was a real academic nightmare. That strange slang Alex and his drogs use, NADSET, wasn't random. Author Anthony Burgess, a trained linguistics professor, built it from scratch that is a Frankenstein mix of Russian, Cockney rhyming slang, and total invention. Over 500 original words meticulously crafted. The studio panicked. Nobody will understand this, they said. They wanted subtitles. But Kubrick refused, or he wanted audiences to feel disoriented, like being dropped into a foreign country with no translator. Malcolm McDowell even spent weeks with a dialect coach to master the rhythm. And here's the twist. Soviet censors watching bootleg copies actually understood it better than English speakers. Half the slang came from Russian. Horror's How meant excellent. Devochka meant girl. By the end of filming, the cast couldn't stop speaking it on set. Kubrick hadn't just made a dystopia movie. He built a linguistic virus that infected everyone who touched it. Fact 2. The eyelid clamps were real and nearly blinded McDowell. That infamous Ludovico technique scene, the one where Alex's eyes are clamped open? Yeah, that wasn't movie magic. Those metal devices were real surgical tools called lid locks that a real doctor was on set, applying anesthetic drops every few minutes to keep McDowell's corneas from drying out. But during one brutal take, the clamp slipped and scratched his eye up. McDowell screamed, temporarily blinded, and was rushed to the hospital. Kubrick, he kept filming the next day. The sheer panic in Alex's eyes during that scene. That's not acting, that's pain. Real, unfiltered pain. McDowell later said it was the most painful experience of his career, and he still has partial vision damage to this day. Even the drops you see being applied on camera, they're real anesthetic drops filmed between takes. Fact 3. The film was rated X before it was even filmed. Before a single frame was shot, the MPAA read Kubrick's script and immediately stamped it rated X. Not because of nudity, not because of language, but because of tone. They said it dripped with moral depravity. Warner Brothers begged Kubrick to tone it down. He didn't. He made it worse. The violence, the sadism, the joy. He turned it all up to 11.1. Warner executive said, "We can't release this. We'll be murdered." But Kubrick had final cut in his contract. He released it anyway. It became the most mainstream X-rated film ever released by a major studio. Theaters panicked. Some refused to screen it. Others hired guards. And Kubrick, he just watched as a controversy fueled his legend. Fact 4. Kubrick pulled his own film from theaters. This one's unbelievable. Kubrick banned his own movie. A year after its release, A Clockwork Orange vanished from British cinemas. Not because of censors or the government, but because Kubrick himself ordered it. Why? Because of death threats. After several real-life crimes mimicked the movie, including a home invasion where attackers sang St. John in the Rain, Kubrick's family was targeted. He was told to leave the country. Instead, he pulled the film from circulation. For 27 years, it was illegal to screen A Clockwork Orange anywhere in the UK. People smuggled bootleg copies from France. Film students watched it in secret, underground screenings. It wasn't until after Kubrick's death in 1999 that the film returned. That a whole generation grew up knowing the movie, but never seeing it. Fact 5. McDowell broke his co-star's ribs for real. The infamous home invasion scene, that wasn't choreographed. Kubrick told McDowell to go wild. So he did. During one take, McDowell leapt onto actor Patrick McGee with such force that he broke his ribs. McGee's screams on camera, they're real. But here's the tragic part. McGee was partially paralyzed from a past car accident. He couldn't even move to protect himself. Kubrick kept the footage. McDowell didn't realize he'd injured him until after shooting wrapped, and he was horrified. Fact 6. The cat lady's murder scene nearly ended the film. The scene where Alex kills a cat lady with a giant phallic sculpture was even more chaotic behind the camera than it looked on screen. Kubrick wanted realism, so he instructed Malcolm McDowell to swing like you mean it. The prop, however, wasn't rubber, it was solid fiberglass. During filming, McDowell slipped and almost hit the actress for real. She screamed and ran off set, refusing to return until Kubrick personally apologized. Even after the apology, she agreed to do only one more take, on the condition that she could fight back. The result? The frantic chaos you see in the final cut. That's not choreography. That's survival instinct. Kubrick loved it so much, he called it the perfect accident. Fact 7. McDowell performed the entire Sinjin in the Rain sequence on the spot. One of the most iconic and disturbing moments in cinema history wasn't planned. The home invasion scene originally had no music. After multiple failed takes, Kubrick grew frustrated that McDowell suggested singing something to loosen up the tension, and instinctively began performing Sinjin in the Rain while attacking the couple. Kubrick stopped everything. He was stunned. They immediately bought the rights to the song for $10,000 and reshot the entire sequence around the improvised moment. Gene Kelly, who originally sang it in the 1952 musical, was horrified when he saw what Kubrick had done. At an Oscars party years later, McDowell approached him, and Kelly turned his back, walking away in silence. Fact 8. Kubrick shot over 200 takes for a single scene. Kubrick's obsession with perfection was legendary, but on A Clockwork Orange, it reached new extremes. For one brief moment, Alex walking into a milk bar, Kubrick shot over 200 takes. The reason? He didn't like the way McDowell blinked. Crew members started betting money on which take would be the one. Camera operators' hands cramped. Actors fell asleep between setups. McDowell once said, "You don't act in a Kubrick film, you survive it." But Kubrick's method worked. Every movement, every glance, every frame feels deliberate, as if reality itself is following a script. Fact 9. The milk was real, and it went bad fast. The infamous Korova milk bar served Milk Plus, laced with drugs, served from human-shaped statues. But the real horror on set wasn't the design. It was the smell. Kubrick insisted the milk be real for visual texture. Under hot studio lights, it spoiled within hours. By mid-afternoon, the air reeked of sour dairy. Actors fought nausea between takes. McDowell said, "We were tripping on the stench more than anything." Eventually, the crew begged Kubrick to use a prop mixture instead. He refused. "Realism," he said, "has a scent." Fact 10. The book's ending was deleted. Anthony Burgess's original novel had a final chapter Kubrick never filmed that I in it. Alex grows up, rejects violence, and chooses to live a normal life. Kubrick cut it completely. He believed the story shouldn't end with redemption, but with ambiguity, the illusion of change without moral clarity. Burgess was furious, claiming Kubrick had misappointed the book. But Kubrick argued that true evil rarely apologizes. The result? A film that ends with Alex's devilish grin, and a nation debating whether he was cured or simply reborn. Fact 11. Kubrick's family received death threats. After its release, the film caused a moral panic across the UK. News outlets linked it to real acts of violence, especially from youth gangs mimicking Alex's style. Letters began pouring into Kubrick's home. Then came the threats his wife, Christiane, later revealed they feared for their daughter's safety. Kubrick withdrew completely from public life. He stopped giving interviews and moved his editing suite inside his house. The man who had once been Hollywood's most public perfectionist became a ghost. Fact 12. The film soundtrack changed music forever. Kubrick's use of classical music, Beethoven, Rossini, Purcell, wasn't just aesthetic. It was revolutionary. He fused violence with beauty, turning symphonies into emotional weapons. When Alex listens to Beethoven, it's pure ecstasy. When he commits violence to the same music, it's desecration. Composers and filmmakers took note. From Apocalypse Now to A Clockwork Orange's own imitators, the idea of using elegant music to score brutality became a cinematic language of its own. Even now, Beethoven's Ninth carries a haunting echo of Kubrick's vision. Fact 13. McDowell refused to watch the movie for over a decade. When A Clockwork Orange premiered, McDowell couldn't bring himself to attend the screening. He'd given everything, his body, his vision, even his sanity, to the role, but Kubrick didn't invite him to the premiere. McDowell found out it was showing by reading the newspaper that he called it the deepest betrayal of my career. For 10 years, he refused to watch it. When he finally did, he admitted it was a masterpiece and that the pain had been worth it. Fact 14. The movie influenced a real-world fashion movement. Those white overalls, bowler hats, and jockstraps, They weren't random costume choices. Kubrick worked with designer Milena Cononero to create a look that felt futuristic, but grounded in street rebellion.it worked too well. Soon after release, gangs in London began dressing exactly like Alex's drogs. The police even filed reports noting the resemblance. Fashion magazines started calling it ultra-violence chic. For Kubrick, it was the ultimate irony. His anti-violence message had inspired the look of rebellion itself. Fact 15. The film was nearly banned in America too. The controversy wasn't limited to Britain. When Warner Brothers submitted the movie to the MPAA in the U.S., they demanded 30 cuts. Kubrick refused, but he only made minor trims, mostly second to nudity and a few frames of gore. But the damage was done. It was rated X, and many theaters refused to play it. Still, audiences lined up for blocks to see what was being called a movie too dangerous for television. It became both scandal and sensation, exactly as Kubrick intended. Fact 16. A real prison helped inspire the Ludovico experiment. The fictional Ludovico technique, a psychological conditioning therapy, was inspired by real experiments. Kubrick had studied a 1960s behavioral program at a British prison, where inmates were shown violent footage paired with nausea-inducing drugs. They learned to associate violence with sickness. Critics were horrified, calling it a violation of human ethics. Kubrick saw something else, a metaphor for free will. His film's message: when you remove choice from a man, even goodness becomes mechanical. Fact 17. McDowell's eyelashes were glued individually by hand. Alex's makeup, especially the single lower eyelash, became one of cinema's most iconic looks. It wasn't a stylistic choice at first. During costume tests, McDowell's upper lashes kept falling off. Makeup artist Barbara Daly decided to flip the idea. One single false lash below the eye, glued individually for each take. Kubrick loved it. He said it made Alex look like a devil pretending to be a cherub. That one tiny detail became the defining image of the film. Fact 18. The studio didn't want the title. Executives at Warner Brothers hated the name A Clockwork Orange. They said it didn't make sense and would confuse audiences. Burgess explained it was an old Cockney phrase, queer as a clockwork orange, meaning something that looks natural but is mechanical inside. Kubrick refused to change it. He said it perfectly captured the film's theme, humanity forced into artificial order. In the end, the title became as mysterious as the film itself, impossible to forget. Fact 19. The original trailer was banned. The first trailer Kubrick released was unlike anything audiences had seen before. No dialogue, no explanation, just a rapid montage of violence, nudity, and flashes of color cut to electronic music. Censors called it psychological assault. The trailer was banned in several U.S. states and pulled from theaters in the U.K. Kubrick didn't care. He said, if the film doesn't shock, it's not art. Fact 20. Kubrick considered destroying the master print. During the height of the controversy, when the film was blamed for copycat crimes, Kubrick nearly destroyed it. In a moment of panic, he told his assistant, maybe I should burn the negative. Thankfully, he didn't. Instead, he locked it away and refused any new prints to be made. That decision saved the film, preserving one of cinema's most controversial works for future generations. Bonus fact: the real message Kubrick wanted you to see. Despite the chaos, the violence, and the infamy, Kubrick's true message wasn't about evil at all. It was about control. He wanted audiences to question whether society's cure for violence was worse than the disease itself. Alex wasn't meant to be admired, but pitied, because when we take away choice, even the act of being good becomes meaningless. Kubrick didn't make A Clockwork Orange to shock. He made it to warn, and 50 years later, that warning feels more relevant than ever. McGee never complained. He said, the show must go on. That haunting, guttural scream during the attack, it's not performance, it's a man in real agony.